through which it is passing, do you think it would be able to achieve its vision? And how do you think that BMIC would open up opportunities? The students did face a tough time, and I faced it through the parents. The questions that I came across were, don't you think the children are too young to be thinking on these lines? Don't you think when you make a statement that read the chapter thoroughly but nothing would be coming from the chapter, don't you think this is too ambiguous? I have always been trying to work on the analytical skills instead of reading everything from the chapter and vomiting out in the papers. I would just like to repeat what Mrs. Rachna Pant said, that if you have the desire to change and you know that you are trying to bring in the right change, just stick on to it. 2 years down the line, I have complete support of the parents, and they come up with questions like, if we want to work on it from the home front, how is it that we can do it? That's all I would like to say.
As I said, we would love to carry on this conversation for a much longer time, but there are constraints. So my suggestion to everybody else who has ideas and examples and stories like this and more, please write that up as an email, send it to Sanjay, we'll put it on a blog or whatever. And I think it's very good that we can start using blogs, etc. to share these kind of things. Because more and more, all these conferences will have a guillotine. But our thinking doesn't stop, our reaction doesn't stop. So please feel free to go ahead. There was a comment about parents, so I need to make a few short stories. Very, very brief, but I think interesting. We were all talking about role of mothers, and I want to talk about two very illustrious people. One is Isadora Rabi, who got a Nobel Prize for physics for discovering nuclear spin. And it's a tradition that when you get the Nobel Prize, they ask you what made you a scientist, etc., etc. And when he was asked this in his interview, he said, my mother made me a scientist without ever knowing it. And I'm saying this because even apparently uneducated people can play a very important role. So how? He says, he lived in a Jewish neighborhood, and he said, whenever all the children of my neighborhood came home, their mothers would ask, what did you learn in school today? What new things did you learn in school today? But my mother would ask, did you ask a good question today? Having got an idea, you have to sell your idea to others. So the success of Edison is not making the light bulb alone, but of getting people to make power lines, to invest in power companies, to do this, and that company is known as General Electric, of which we know more Jack Welch than Thomas Edison, but that's the kind of a thing that we did. So he had only 3 months of formal schooling. So with all the BBAs and MBAs and IIT and BTech, etc., nobody matches that. He was taught by his mother. Now that is the point which we are saying. So the importance of mother's involvement, or in fact, I don't know about father's involvement, but when we say parental involvement, it is actually de facto mother's involvement. And we have a whole program on this. We will be very happy to take this further. Once again, I would say I'm very delighted at the flow of events, the interest till the end, people actually wanting to go beyond 6 o'clock for discussions and so on and so forth. It has been a great pleasure. I hope that future events will be again something which are as interesting, and we will come with topics and speakers and panelists who make this quite interesting. So thank you all once again, and thank the Planet team and all these people who have worked very hard to put it all together. A great thanks to all of them. I think we should clap for everybody.
What a wonderful session. So one session I could identify with on many parameters. On the school, the curriculum, the learner and the parent. I'm not a teacher, regrettably. May I request Professor Pant to do us the honors and present mementos to our distinguished participants. Mrs. Rachna Pant first. Incidentally, I know many of you may know that they are a team, so you can imagine the kind of discussions that must be going on in their homes. Mr. Martin Ware, thank you so much for telling us about the challenges and the methods by which the curriculum design, the big educational reform in Scotland is happening. Mr. Sani, as always, a pleasure to hear you, even if it comes in the last session. Believe you me, we always look forward. Ms. Sonal Narang, I must apologize that I used the word replacement, which was probably not.
We didn't want to say she's an imposter.
Thank you, but carried the session very well. Thank you. And Mrs. Seema Sahai, our last speaker, who stuck not only to the topic with key inputs but also the time. Thank you ever so much. So we close the conference part of the 4th EDUConvEx, organized by Planet Edu in collaboration with the Cambridge University ESOL project, right? Right here, but there is an evening that we will be sharing ahead, which will really start at 7 p.m. So technically you have almost 50 minutes in which you can see the center, talk to each other, fraternize, meet each other, and then join us for dinner at the Margot Salons. The most important part of the dinner is the awards ceremony that will be part of the dinner. Many of you are going to be getting some of the awards, I understand. So I look forward to receiving you there once again. Thank you so much for being with us through the day.